It's 2026 and the Kakashi versus Gojo debate is still going. I didn't really expect for this debate to still be prolonging to this day because I thought it was kind of obvious which side of this debate is correct. I think it's pretty clear that Kakashi slams Gojo, and yes, I am a Naruto fan, but when it comes to these kind of things, I am super non-biased. Even if you don't think Kakashi easily defeats Gojo, at the end of the day, Kakashi still wins. Now, I haven't watched JJK yet, but I do know all of Gojo's abilities the same way I know Kakashi's. When there are debates like this, a lot of times people choose a side because they know all about one anime but only know limited things about the other. It really surprises me that more people think that Gojo is stronger than Kakashi instead of vice versa, especially since Geiji Akutami, the author of JJK himself, said that Kakashi is stronger. JJK fans just do not want to accept the fact that Kakashi is stronger than Gojo. And the funny thing is that some do know that Kakashi is stronger but still defend Gojo because they're JJK fans. Kakashi beats Gojo simply because he has a counter to all of Gojo's techniques and abilities. When we pair up two anime characters to fight, we always put them at their peak version. So this would be Gojo during the time he was fighting Sukuna against Kakashi during the time he was in the Fourth Great Ninja War. In this video, I will be stating both of the characters' abilities and techniques with a detailed explanation. Then, I will discuss the counterpoints, etc. This way, we can get the best and most accurate point of view of this fight, and it won't just be one-sided. Let's start off with Gojo since for me, it's easier to explain his abilities and techniques. Then I'll hype up Kakashi. Gojo's first ability to explain is Infinity. The concept of infinity may seem complex or difficult to understand at first, but it's really easy to get your head around it once you learn it. Infinity is Gojo's main defensive ability. Gojo's infinity makes it so that he's untouchable, and no, it does not make him intangible. Infinity makes it so that anything that tries to touch Gojo will be stopped before it reaches him. Here's how Gojo's infinity works. Infinity stops anything directed at Gojo by dividing the finite space between him and an object or person an infinite amount of times. Now you need to remember that Gojo's infinity is not a barrier, it's a concept. Here's another way to interpret Gojo's infinity. Take any number at all. Divide it by any number as well. No matter how many times you divide that number by that number, the quotient of that division will never reach zero. For it to reach zero, it would take an infinite number of divisions. And infinite means that it will take forever. It's kind of like a math concept, I guess. Same thing with Gojo's infinity. Let's say you throw an object at Gojo. At a certain point, the distance between Gojo and the object will divide itself continuously. Infinity does not want anything touching Gojo, and since repeatedly dividing a number never reaches zero, it keeps dividing the distance before the gap closes. So essentially, the object gets slower and slower as it gets closer to Gojo. So in theory, you can touch Gojo, but because the distance is being divided an infinite amount of times, it will also take you an infinite amount of time before you reach Gojo. So you can't touch him. That's how Gojo's infinity works. The only ways to bypass infinity is by using domain expansion, domain amplification, or a specialized cursed tool. If there's a character from another verse, then they would need an ability that breaks space and time itself, since infinity can only stop things that travel on distance and takes time to reach Gojo. So the question in theory that basically decides if Kakashi can fight Gojo is this: does Kakashi have an ability that bypasses infinity? Yes, he does, and we'll discuss that once I finish with Gojo. Gojo has three main offensive attacks: blue, red, and hollow purple. Gojo's cursed technique Lapse Blue is a technique created by using cursed energy to create a powerful field of attraction. It goes in a straight path and it acts like a vacuum or suction, attracting anything around it into itself. Red, however, is the complete opposite of blue. Gojo's cursed technique Reversal Red is a technique created by using reverse cursed energy to create a powerful repulsive force. It also goes in a straight path and it brutally pushes back anything in its way. It has twice the destructive power as blue and harder to perform. And now we have hollow purple, and yep, you guessed it. It's a combination of red and blue. It also goes in a straight path, and it's an imaginary mass that absolutely destroys anything in its path, completely erasing it from reality. Now, last but definitely not least, we have Gojo's expansion domain. Unlimited Void. Anything within a certain radius is almost immediately caught in it. The moment you are caught in it, your brain is immediately flooded with infinite information. Way too much information for your brain to process. And since your brain can't process it, you are unable to move anymore, leaving you paralyzed. The domain is an infinite void, so you cannot escape it. Now you are completely vulnerable for Gojo to do anything he wants to do to you. Needless to say that once you're caught in Gojo's domain expansion, it's wraps. Now that we've went over the abilities that Gojo will most likely use against Kakashi, it's Kakashi's turn. I'm not going to go over all of Kakashi's techniques and powers simply because it will not work due to Gojo's infinity. The only thing Kakashi has that will work against Gojo is his Sharingan abilities. For Kakashi to use his Sharingan abilities, he would have to use his Mangekyo Sharingan, but his only Mangekyo ability is Kamui. Now, Kamui isn't just one ability, it has its own concept kinda. Here's what it is. The first thing you need to know about Kamui is that it has its own pocket dimension. Anything that gets caught within it will be directly warped into the Kamui dimension. Now, in this fight, Kakashi has both Sharingans. One of them was a gift from Obito way before the show started, and the other was also from Obito when he gave it to him during the war arc. So Kakashi also has Obito's Kamui abilities. The first thing Kakashi can do with his Kamui is warp anything into the Kamui dimension. He can warp anything at all that includes objects, attacks, and even himself. The only thing that Kakashi can warp anywhere other than the Kamui dimension is himself. So essentially, Kakashi can teleport. The other thing Kakashi can do with his Kamui is that he can become intangible. So now we know that Kakashi and Gojo can make themselves untouchable. However, their abilities work differently. Gojo's infinity makes it so that nothing can reach him. With Kakashi's intangibility, anything can reach him, but the moment it tries to touch him, it passes right through him. In reality, Kakashi doesn't actually become intangible. When Kakashi activates Kamui to avoid damage, he warps only the parts of his body that are currently intersecting with an attack or object into the Kamui dimension. Because this happens instantly, it looks like he is intangible, even though that part of him is actually in a different location. While often described as selecting parts, Kamui functions as a rapid, automatic response to physical contact. When in this state, any part of his body touched by an opponent is sent to the dimension, while the rest remains in the normal world. Because the Kamui dimension is a separate space-time, it coexists with the normal dimension. Kakashi is able to project his physical form into the real world, while the actual damaged or threatened parts of his body are safely located in the other dimension. The ghost-like appearance is a side effect of his body being in two places at once. To an observer, it looks like objects are passing through him, but they are actually passing through the space that his body is not currently occupying in the physical world. That's how Kakashi's, in bunny ears, intangibility works. So if you are teleported into the Kamui dimension, what's actually happening there? Well, nothing much. Nothing happens to your power, you aren't getting physically affected, so to be honest, you're fine. Here's the only major problem though. Once you're in there, there's no way back to the original dimension unless Kakashi himself teleports you back. If he decides not to, then you're stuck there forever, which would eventually lead to your fate. Kakashi can also teleport parts of objects, like body parts for example. He doesn't have to warp the entire thing. It's actually easier for him to warp parts rather than the whole object because it requires precise focus and chakra control. That means Kakashi could warp something like your head for example, making you meet your fate much quicker. That's the concept of Kamui, and like I said, it's the only thing Kakashi can use to defeat Gojo. Now that we've discovered and understood both of the characters' abilities and techniques, let's go over the counterpoints. So one of the questions that all JJK fans are dying to know is, how does Kakashi bypass infinity? Well, it's simple. Kamui. How does Kamui bypass infinity exactly? Here's how. Kamui isn't a projectile. It has no mass and it doesn't travel a distance. It spawns directly at where Kakashi is looking at. Infinity can only stop things that are coming directly at Gojo and take time to get there. Kamui is instant, an instant ability that breaks time and space itself. Now, of course, this doesn't mean that Gojo is done for the moment the fight starts. I'm pretty sure Gojo can easily avoid Kamui if he's paying attention. Also, remember that Kakashi has both of the Sharingans, so it's way easier to use Kamui. He can use Kamui several times without any severe damage or issues. When he only had one, he was spamming it and still didn't face anything serious. So imagine how much more he can use it. Gojo has to be on the lookout at all times. As for Gojo's three main attacks, Blue Red and Hollow Purple, Kakashi can easily counter those. Kakashi is way faster than Gojo. He's faster than light speed, and his Cursed technique attacks are not even near as fast as Kakashi. Kakashi has so many business days to dodge the attacks, avoiding it effortlessly. If Kakashi doesn't feel like moving, he can just use his intangibility. And if he really feels like it, he can just warp himself to a different location before the attack reaches him. Blue, Red, and Purple are the easiest things for Kakashi to avoid. So far, Kakashi is doing pretty good with the counterpoints. Now, up to this point, I'm sure some of you JJK fans are probably like, wait. How the hell does Kakashi counter domain expansion? To all of you guys who are like this, have you been paying attention at all? Now, no, I'm not going to say that Kakashi can copy it. And to all of you Naruto fans who say this, it's not true. First of all, let's gather sense here and apply it. Kakashi comes from Naruto, a verse where hand signs are one of the main fighting styles. Hand signs literally mean that you're about to do a move or attack, so get ready. Do you really think that Kakashi would see Gojo cross his fingers and not react at all? He would probably speed blitz him the moment he does it. If Kamui is too late, then he can still back up before the domain spreads. And yes, he can do this because domain expansion catches almost instantly, not instantly. And remember, in his prime, Kakashi is faster than the speed of light. So I know this sounds crazy, but Kakashi can quite literally outrun domain expansion before it reaches him. Now, a lot of you may think that Kakashi wouldn't react quick enough, which is understandable. But think about it. A character faster than the speed of light, wouldn't you think that their reaction time is equally as fast? It makes sense, and with Kakashi sharing in, his sense triggers, awareness, and reaction time is insane. So yes, Kakashi can react quickly enough. At least after the first time, because I'll be real. Kakashi would most likely end up getting caught in Gojo's expansion domain at least once. But after that, he would know exactly what to expect when Gojo does his finger cross. But if Kakashi would get caught in his domain at least once, how did he escape it for there to be a second time? Well, if you're in Gojo's expansion domain, you can't move at all. Kakashi can still teleport himself using Kamui because he can't move while he's warping himself anyways. Kakashi would have nowhere to teleport to, so he would teleport in the Kamui dimensions and chill there for as long as he needs before resuming the fight. So now there you have it, a counter to all of Gojo's moves. Kakashi will get Gojo with his Kamui at some point. With a little bit of timing, at the right moment, Kakashi would catch Gojo off guard at some point and use his Kamui to finish him off. Before we conclude this video, here's some things I want to mention and clarify about Kakashi in this fight. Remember that Kakashi comes from Naruto, a verse where a lot of times fighting styles use traps, decoys, and trick moves such as clones, substitutions, and genjutsus. Those things are highly part of Kakashi's fighting style. That means that Gojo will most certainly be fooled and tricked by these things. For example, anytime at all during this fight, Gojo could catch Kakashi in his domain expansion and kill him just for it to be a clone. See what I mean? Just something to put in consideration and keep in mind. Anyways, that's it for this video, and I just want to say genuinely, out of all sincerity, this video wasn't made to regard any negativity on Gojo. He is a very strong and amazing anime character. It's just that I don't think he's on Kakashi's level, just like Gege said, the author of Jujutsu Kaisen. The JJK verse is stated to power scale at city level at best. The Naruto verse is planetary scale level. In the anime, they fight literal gods. Gojo may have more hacks and abilities, but Kakashi is just like that. That's why it would make more sense if Kakashi is stronger than Gojo. Anyways, that will wrap it up. I hope this debate was interesting to hear. Thank you for watching. See you guys.